Hi guys. Um, we are here today to talk about do our first very live show on Mompreneurs India Network. I'm so excited to be starting these series of talk shows with various experts on our group. We have so many people who are in various industries, and they've got so much of wealth of information that they can share with us, and which can be really useful for our business. So I decided to start a series of talk shows on the group. I'll be speaking to an industry expert every month, and I'll be inviting them to talk on the various topics which can help our business. Now, why did I think about doing something on visas? Because I feel that as we are doing our businesses, sometime now or in near future, we all might have the opportunity to travel outside our country for work, or maybe even with our families for pleasure. So I recently had this experience of going through applying for the visa, and I can't tell you how strenuous it was. I ended up, I had so many sleepless nights thinking whether I will get the visa or not. And towards at a point that it was like my worst nightmares had come true when I finally arrived at the interview. I felt like I might not go through. So I was in a lot of stress during this entire visa application process, and I thought that it would be a good idea that I would share my knowledge with you guys, so that when it comes to you and when you have to go through this whole process, you're better prepared and you have more information on your hand, and you have these tips in your hand so that you can come out successfully in your interviews. So applying for visa is nothing less than a job interview process, because you have to go through an application, you have to arrange all your documents, you have to understand what the expectations of the consulate are, and if you do all this, then you go through and your interview is successful and you get your visa. Even if you have completed the documentation thoroughly and you have made the payment of the fees, there is very high chances that the visa may not be approved. So do not assume that, okay, just because you have applied or paid the fees, that your visa will be approved. No, there are a lot of things that the consulate takes into consideration before they grant you your visa, which is why I thought that we should have this talk show on visas. And thankfully, by God's grace, I have managed to invite some really experienced people on today's talk show. One of experts is Karishma Amin Salian, who is here with you all. You can see her on the broadcast. Karishma she has extensive experience with the airline industry, and she specializes in liaison with immigration departments. She has many years of consular work experience behind her. So Karishma will be able to help us and give us a lot of information on what the consulate's expectation is when it comes to visas. I also have Kavita Shah, who will be joining us shortly. She runs a travel agency. She's also from Mumbai. Karishma Amin Salian is also from Mumbai. And Kavita Shah runs a travel agency. So she has first-hand experience with visa application process, because she has taken a number of people abroad on tours, and she has gone through the process of filing visa applications for her customers. So she'll be able to give us a little insight onto her experience in filing visas. She'll be joining us shortly. I think she's facing a little technical issues on her side in joining the talk show. But even if she's not able to join, we have Karishma Amin, who is able to who will be answering all our questions regarding the visa. If you have any questions that you want to ask our experts or me, and you want to join the you are able to see the talk show, but if you want to ask us any questions, all you have to do is write your questions in comments below, and I'll be able to see them. Okay. Karishma, are you able, just before I just proceed, are you able to hear me on the talk on the talk show below and on Facebook?
Yes, I'm able to hear you very well.
Fantastic. So all of you who are right now tuned in to this talk show and have any questions, feel free to ask questions here right now on the comments. If you miss out the talk show, you can still send in your questions to us in comments in this same post that you're seeing. So let's begin with our talk show right now. Karishma, can you tell us a little bit about yourself, and what has your experience been in this industry like?
I started my career with the travel industry. I worked with various airlines, Qatar Airways, British Midlands, Air India, and then I moved on to the consulates. I worked with the Britishers, with the Americans very closely, with the Australians, and I have a stream of experience with the first 5 CC countries.
That's lovely. That's hello.
Yeah, yeah, I can hear you. Tell me.
Okay. Okay. So, uh, what are the different type of visas that you are aware of? Does every country have a different visa? And is it called differently? Does every country have a different process of filing? What is it about visas? Why do we need visas to travel? Are there countries where we don't need a visa and we can travel without a visa?
See, visa application process are more or less a same with every consulate. They work in the same way. The assessing process of the application is exactly the same. However, the forms may be called with different numbers. Like a US, you may say DS 160, or for an Australian would be AU 180. The form numbers are different, and the application forms may vary. But however, the application assessment process is exactly the same. There are various categories of visa applications. First being visitors. For parents, it's separate. For students, and then there is work visas, and then there is partnership visas where couples can apply. So every consulate has various categories of visas, but student, visitors, and work uh, are more or less the same with every other consulate. Yeah, and India does have countries where we can go visa free. However, my suggestion is every time, even if you do have a visa on arrival, you must call and check with the consulate whether or not you need a visa or not, because there are times when they change the requirements and you may end up landing in that country,
Mm.
and there may be huge queues, big queues, where you would not want to stand, and having a 4 hour flight and stuff like that. Might as well take a visa. It is the safest way to do. And especially in countries for visa on arrival, getting a visa is not very difficult. It's very standard. You give your ticket, your hotel copy, and that's it. You get your visa on arrival. But however, my suggestion is always to get your visa first on hand before traveling, because if you have a deportation stamp for
Mm.
any case, that stops you from traveling to any other country for life. So,
Okay.
just for that reason, I would suggest everyone, whether or not visa is needed or not, you must always apply for your visa. It just takes a day or two, but it's always good to travel that way.
Okay, okay.
Yeah.
And so where are all these consulates located in our country? Like all these different countries have different consulates. Are there like any specific centers or locations where we have these consulates, or they are everywhere in India? Where do we find the information about this? Where our consulates are located?
Okay. So consulates are firstly called high commissions. High
Okay.
commissions are based out of New Delhi. New Delhi, why? Because like during the independence time, when Mr. Nehru granted every other country a place in our country, which was in New Delhi, a piece of land allotted to every other country. So
Hmm.
the Chinese, the Australians, the New Zealanders, the Americans, everyone have a piece of land in Chanakyapuri in New Delhi. So they are the high commissions based out of there. So you would find every high commission in New Delhi. However, it's only New Zealand who does not have the immigration department in New Delhi, but works out of Mumbai. That's a recent development.
I
But
see.
every other high commission is based out of New Delhi. You just Google it out, you can find the address. But however,
Okay.
if you have to contact them, you
Hmm.
cannot contact the high commission directly. That's a call that they always take, because for security reasons they don't want applicants to contact immigration officers directly unless and until the officers contact them personally. Otherwise, you can always write emails. You will find email IDs when you Google out their addresses on Google, and find out their consulate address. There is a common inquiry address where you can always email.
Yeah.
And every consulate has a visa processing visa application center, which is called a WAC. So
Okay.
for a visa for an American consulate, you would go to the VFS center, which is called the Visa Facilitation Service Center, or a Visa Application Center, a VFS or a WAC. A WAC for the consulate term, where you go and apply for your visa. They are the place who just accepts your application. They are not the ones who process your visa. So if you go and ask VFS a question, you will never get an answer because they are not authorized to do so. Yeah,
Yeah.
and they do,
For a minute,
and
I had confused myself with BFS being the consulate, and then I learned that BFS is just a center which takes the applications and then they
application.
dispatch
Yeah,
it, and they don't even have they don't even know whether they don't even check your documents for that matter. They just
yeah,
take it and they just put it in the envelope and they just send it away. So VFS is
yeah.
not a consulate; it's just an application center, and I think VFS
Center.
Global does it for many countries, right? Not just for one
Countries.
country. Yeah.
Almost 90% of the countries.
Okay. Okay.
So VFS,
Yeah.
yeah, processes applications, and then the other center is TTS. So these are the only two players in the consulate market.
I see. I see. Okay.
Yeah,
Okay. That's
TTS is not very well known, but that's, yeah.
okay. So this is very useful information, Karishma. Thank you so much for this information. Can you tell me a little bit more about the typical process of applying for visa? What is the process that a person has to go through? Does she have to do it herself, or are there agents who can help us in this? What would you recommend? If for a person who wants to apply her visa, what should she do?
Yeah. So I have two suggestions. One, who do not have any idea about applying for a visa and you have less time, I suggest you go through an agent.
All
However,
right.
if you have enough, however, if you have enough time for your travel,
Yeah.
there is no need for hiring an agent. You can do it yourself.
Okay.
And for every visa application process, it's a standard process. Imagine if you have to let someone in your home, a stranger in your home, what would you check? You would check the authentication of everything about that person. You just
Correct.
have to prove to the consulate that you will be going back to your home and not staying in my home forever.
Hmm.
So on that context, you have to submit all the paperwork that the consulate requires. First
Right.
is your return ticket, which is a proof that you will be going back to your home country.
So you
And
have to file the ticket first. You have to get the travel ticket first before you apply for a visa.
when you read the consulate instructions, it very clearly says, do not book your ticket until the visa is granted.
Uh-huh. Okay.
All right. But
Hmm.
my suggestion to all the applicants is to book your ticket, not issue it. Booking a ticket and issuing a ticket is two different things. So when you
Okay.
book your ticket, a PNR is generated. A PNR
Correct.
is a airline term.
Hmm.
So a PNR is generated. You can take the printout of it, submit for your application, and keep rebooking your ticket. It does
Understood.
not cost you to cancel and keep rebooking on the same PNR again.
Correct.
The travel agent can do it. You can do it yourself online whenever you book your ticket, because the ticket is a sense of proof for the immigration officer showing that you are going back to your home country.
Yeah.
Secondly,
You're not going to.
yes, yes, that's their main concern, because the immigration officers, the first instruction to them is that the applicant needs to go back when his work is done. Unless and until you're a winner and bringing in money into the country, you're welcome. Otherwise, you have to go back. Secondly, is your bank statement that you have enough funds. The reason why they ask for funds is to show that, say, for example, you travel to Bangkok and you
Hmm.
get into an emergency situation, your spouse is ill, your child is ill, you get sick. The
Hmm.
country does not want to spend on you. You should have enough funds to
Yeah.
take care of yourself. Or
Hmm.
any other emergency situation you may get in, say theft or anything of that sort, or maybe into an accident. The government
Hmm.
will not spend on you. They need to see that you will be able to take care of yourself. However, you need not have like lakhs of rupees in your bank account, but
Hmm.
decent amount is fine.
Understood.
Thirdly, you
Hmm.
need your leave letter from your company. That's the most important document. saying that you have been granted leave, you've been working with this organization, this is the tenure of your organization that you've been working with, and you have been granted leave, and your manager knows that you have been traveling for holiday or whatever purpose, your organization should be aware of it. However, for momspreneurs, you all are all business persons. You all may not be working for a company. All you need to show is that you have ties back in your country. So, for example, like Chetna, when you are traveling, you have your son back home. You may not be taking your son with you. You need
Yeah.
to show them that you have a son. Okay. You need to prepare a cover letter. Secondly, show in proofs that he is studying in the school. He's already taken admission in certain school, and that I have to come back for my son.
Yeah. Yeah.
Even though this may sound very stupid, that they know I have a son, they know he's going to school, we would feel, why do we need to show that? The
Yeah.
the more documents you show that you have ties back in your country, the faster your visa gets processed.
Correct.
Trust me, it gets processed in like 3 to 4 days. The
Mm.
lesser the documents, it will get elongated, and it may also get rejected.
Mm.
So,
Mm.
showing ties back in your country, leave letter from your employers, your finance background, and your return ticket and your hotel bookings are the most crucial documents for your visa to get approved.
So I'll
Yeah.
just summarize the documents, the important documents that we need to take, irrespective of the type of visa, whether you're traveling on tourist, whether you're traveling on a work visa. These are some of the documents that you should include, original and copies, to ensure that your visa is approved. You should take along with you the appointment confirmation, the date that is, this is the date of confirmation. So you'll get the confirmation letter when you apply for the visa. You have to take your appointment confirmation. Second, you have to take the document which indicates the purpose of visit. So, like in case of US, there is the DS 160, which states the purpose of visit. Similarly, there will be other documents related to the visas that you're applying, which states very clearly the purpose of visit to the country. Third, you have to take your letters, work invitation letters. If you're going for work, then the invitation letter from your company, that you're coming there for work. If you're going on tourist visa, then probably an invitation letter from your husband or your family back there, saying that they are inviting you for so and so purpose, whether it's a marriage or whatever purpose that you're traveling. It could also be a sponsor letter. So if you're going on H1 or any other such visas, then you need a sponsor letter saying that, okay, they are sponsoring your stay, or stay and all the other things while you are over there. They'll be sponsoring your visit to the country. You have to take your current passports and all your old passports as well. You have to take documents and evidences that show your ties to your current country, which is that is in India, wherever you're staying. Evidences to the ties to the country, such as you could take your rental agreement or your property agreement, your bank your ties, your parents' details. So you could take your passport copies of your parents. You could take passport copies of your child, saying that that these are the people who are here in India and they know you and they are your family. Also, you need to take, and that's most important, is they need to know that you're financially sound. So you need to take bank statements along with you. So or take copies of the fixed deposits, or anything that shows that you have plenty of money and bank balance back here in India, and shows that you're financially stable, is what you should be doing. Also, what I would suggest and encourage is during before just a few days before the your visa interview, do not make large sums of transfer to your account, because then that will reflect in your statement, and suddenly it will show that your bank balance is bloated, and that might come into question as to why or how you suddenly got so much money into your account. So for the past 2 or 3 months before you go for a visit to the visa, maintain a steady hefty balance in your bank, to ensure that you're financially sound, and take evidences of those 2-3 months along with you to the consulate. Have I covered it all, Karishma? Or these are the important documents?
Yes. On the last point that you mentioned, which is very crucial, actually, someone transferring funds to your account, be it your
Correct.
mother or be it your husband, the consulate definitely questions you as to from where did you receive. Even if it is US, they would ask you from where did this funds come. Even though you
Yeah.
may say it, my husband had it, They will ask for your husband's documents as to from where did he receive the money. This process then again gets elongated. Just to avoid that confusion, do not just avoid transfer of funds. Yeah.
And the funny part is all this information is not disclosed anywhere. Nobody gets to know about all these things, unless you meet somebody who's gone through the process and experienced all of this, which is why I'm so glad that you're here, Karishma, and that I am talking about all of this information, because it's not available anywhere, that all these things need to be in place. So let's come to the next question quickly here. What are the kind of questions that you may be asked when you are at the consulate? So what kind of questions you may be asked? So it's nothing short of a job interview that you're giving, but you have to be prepared, for a lot of questions that you will be asked at the consulate. Some of these questions could be like, where are you staying? Where is your family staying? Have you traveled to any countries before? Okay, so they might ask you what is the purpose of your visit, right? They may ask you where you're going to be staying when you're visiting. So you need to have all this information in your mind, and you should be ready to give these answers. You should be, if you're going on a tourist visa and then you end up saying that, okay, I'm going to go and meet this business person or do some work with this person. This contradicts the purpose of your visit, and downright, your visa might get rejected. So you have to be very careful about the kind of questions that you're going to be answering. Just be thorough, that you're not confusing them. They'll be asking you very straightforward questions. Actually, if you are not very good in English, you could also ask for a language interpreter, right? So you could have a language interpreter over there who could translate what the interviewer is asking you in your own language. You may choose to give the answers back in your own language, and the language interpreter will give the answers back to the interviewer. So you can do that too. However, what is most important is that you do not deviate from the purpose of the visit. So you need to bring the interviewer in confidence that you are going to the other country for the purpose that you have specified on the documents. So be prepared for any kind of questions. They might ask you your child's name. They might ask you where your husband is, how are you supporting your family? How much money do you have in your bank account right now? If it's your husband who's sponsoring the visit, then how much money does he earn? So these are pretty personal questions, but be prepared that you might be asked to answer these questions. Am I correct? Karishma, do you want to add something to this?
Yeah, these are the exact questions that you may be asked by the immigration officer if he has a doubt on your application. However, for the US consulate, an interview is mandatory. They do not let go of any applicant without an interview. However, with other consulates, if they have a doubt on your application, only then will you be called. Otherwise, a telephonic interview is okay for them. But whatever questions Chetna just said are the main kind of questions that you have to be prepared for, and you need to know everything, whether how much your husband earns and what is your and every other personal question that the immigration officer may ask. You should be ready with those answers. Secondly, at any point of the interview, if you end up saying that you are going for a business purpose instead of a visit, your visa straight gets off rejected without a second doubt. There is not a may included in it. You straight get rejected. I would like to add, not many people know that you would know that your social sites gets checked by the immigration officers. Yes, they have access to your social sites. They could go and check what you do on Facebook, what you do on Instagram. So if you're a business person, however, claiming to go on a visit, uh, they would trust you that you're going on a visit. But there will be just be prepared for questions like, oh, what is your business here and why are you going there? And just during the interview, if you end up saying, oh, I'm going to meet business people there, just that's the end of it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. That's
Yeah.
a Pricing. Okay. Okay. All right. So next, let's move on quickly to the next set of questions. We have a few more questions to go, and we are already 10 minutes into the talk show. We have 10 more questions. Five more questions to run. If anybody has any questions to ask, you can post it in the comments, and I'll be seeing the comments and asking these questions to Karishma. If at the end of this video you still want to have speak to Karishma or our travel agent Kavita Shah, who unfortunately I don't think she'll be joining us. She's not been able to join us till now, but she'll be available also to answer your visa related questions and help you with visa applications and booking your tickets. If you want any kind of help, you can connect with me. So moving on to the next question, and which is so important because it's kind of, unless you have to have a lot of patience when you apply for the visa. So because sometimes it comes immediately, it will come next day, but sometimes it may not come on time. So typically you should know what are the visa processing times. So what are the visa processing times on an average, Karishma?
It's 20 working days by most of the consulate. Working days. When I say working days, do not include a Saturday, Sunday, or a public holiday. So you may calculate 20 days from the date of your application. That's not how it works. And
Okay.
secondly, applications get segregated by a risk and a fast processed application. So, for example, a person who is very well traveled gets segregated as a low risk application, whereas a person who is not traveled at all or has traveled to countries like Iraq, Afghanistan, and certain red alert countries, then those people are segregated as high risk travel. But however, a person from United Nations maybe, or someone may have traveled to these red alert countries, for them it's okay. But otherwise, if you have still traveled to Iraq or Afghanistan for I don't know what purpose, then definitely you are a high alert application, and you may expect that your application may take 4 to 5 months to get processed.
I see. Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
But is there a way to say, if I have to go for a conference or I have to go for a Kavita, you'll have to. Our new expert has come in. Kavita Shah has just joined. Kavita, can you tilt your screen, please? Thank you. Thank you so much. So, is there a way to get the visa processing done faster by paying some additional cost or something? Is it possible?
Where some consulates have a streamlined process where you pay for a faster application process. New Zealand does not have that. I don't know with Australia. Kavita may be able to answer that better. But as far as I know, Britishers do. I don't know about the Americans as well. But New Zealanders and uh, the Americans, I don't know if you have a faster application processing fee. Britishers do definitely. So
Okay.
you pay for that process and your application gets processed faster.
Achha.
But that
Okay.
application getting processed faster does not mean your application may get approved.
Approved. Okay. Okay. So
Mm.
there is basically we cannot. There is standard time that is going to take is 20 days. But again, I understand. So I had to try. What happened in my case is that I wanted to book it through Mumbai, but the interview date was 30 days after. From the time that I submitted the application, the interview date was like 30 days after that. So I had to travel all the way to Chennai to get my visa interview dates. So is it possible any way to again speed up or get a precedence in interviews in any of the consulates? Is it possible in case we have emergency travel? Are there any emergency possibilities in any of the consulates?
See, every consulate will process your application faster, but that's only on compassionate only on compassionate basis. So, for example, someone's close relative may have died in New Zealand, may have died in Australia, and they need to travel on emergency purposes. It's only on compassionate basis that you could walk into the consulate and request them that there is someone who is deceased. They will confirm it. They will ask the country in Australia and New Zealand and confirm that the person is deceased or not. Once they get an okay, they will process your application in 24 hours time. only in such cases. Or if it's a ministerial travel, or if it's like a travel or a group visa or something like that, which is for country related purposes, only in such cases. These are very exceptional cases. But for common mass like us, I do not see where your visas may get processed like in a 24 hours time, or even for that matter 3 to 4 days time.
Right, right.
No. Yeah.
Okay. Hi, Kavita. Thank you so much for joining us. Uh, so, are you able to hear us? Right, but we can't hear you. So, we still are not able to hear you. Right. So, moving on to my next question is, what can you expect at the consulate? How is the setting like? I mean, we do not, nobody has, if they're for the people who have never seen a consulate before, what is the experience like inside a consulate? If anybody wants to answer that, or I would like to share my own experience. When I entered the UK, I went to VFS Global, or whether I went to the experience was completely different versus when I stepped into the US embassy. The experience was completely different. So when I went into the VFS Global Center here, my work was done like in 15 minutes. Even though I had an appointment like at 12 o'clock, and 12:15, I had submitted my documents and I was out. But when I went into to the US embassy, my appointment was at 8 o'clock, but I got my interview done at 10 o'clock, and it was like I was visiting a temple. It reminded me of being in Shirdi, where there was a huge queue, and we were going round and round and round and round till I met with my interviewer. So there was a huge queue outside the US embassy, whereas the VFS Global was quicker and faster. I did not have an interview process. I had a very small interview interaction with the people at the VFS Global, but US Embassy was a lot more elaborate, and that was my experience. I also had something called as biometrics, where they did where they checked where they did fingerprinting. I think in the UK consulate they just take they take 4 fingers and thumb. I'm not sure. I'm not able to recall now. And again, in the US Embassy also they expect all 10 fingerprints. So that was the process there. So we had to first do our biometrics, and after the biometrics was done, then I went into the interview. Right. So that was it. And there are a lot of people ahead in the queue who are there for various reasons at the embassy. We have to maintain perfect silence. We cannot chat about while we are there at the embassy. I was asked to keep my mobile phones away. At the biometric center, they allowed me to take the mobile phone, but I had to switch it off. But when I went to the embassy, I couldn't take my handbag either. So I had to keep my mobile phones away, make sure that you only take your documents along. Don't take anything else. You cannot take in your phones. You cannot take your handbags. If you have a pen drive inside your handbag or a purse, you have to keep that away too. So you cannot take all these things inside the embassy. You only can take your folders. As soon as you get into the embassy, there is a security check similar to what you will find at the airport. You will have to walk through a metal detector, and you will have to put all your belongings through an X-ray machine. So they might ask, if they find out anything that's like metal-like or anything that's suspicious, they will not let you in through. They will just move you out of the queue. So make sure that you're not carrying any of these things. You will right. So that's one thing that you shouldn't take. You might be allowed to take your water bottles, but again, you don't need to. There is a water filter inside the embassy. You don't need to take anything when you're going. Be prepared that, like I said, the VFS Global, the processing was very quick. So it happened immediately. I mean, in just 15-20 minutes, I was out. But at the US Embassy, it took me like hours. So be prepared to stand there in the queue for many hours. Most of the time, will be spent in the waiting queue, but the interview won't last for more than 3 minutes, I guess. Not more than 3 minutes. the interview will last, and you will be given your verdict whether your visa has been approved or not. This is in the embassy. VFS Global doesn't give you an immediate decision. They will send your documents to the High Commission, and the High Commission validates these documents, does the background checks, and then makes a decision. But once you're at the embassy, I think, I think this applies for all the embassies. You get the verdict then itself whether your visa has gone through or not. The setup is very similar to a bank. There are rows of, there are windows, like how you see in the banks. There are, it's similar to a bank with a row of windows behind which the consular staff will be sitting, right? And you will be given a token number, or there will be people attending who will ask you to go to, a particular window, and where you will be asked the questions, or your biometrics will be done. So after that, once you're, after some time, you're called up and these questions are answered. And I think after that, you are allowed to, exit through a different door, and you can, your work is done. Your visa interview is done. So this is a typical, this is my experience of a visa interview. Is there something else that we can expect, Karishma or Kavita?
No, I think you've covered it all.
Okay. Okay, so this is what you'll expect. So I thought that this information will help you settle down, that this so that you don't feel a little nervous. I know that we feel many women in the queue are feeling jittery about how what is going to happen, and when they see this long queues, the nervousness becomes really elevated. So I think this information will help you calm down, that this is what you're going to be expecting when you arrive at the consulate. Don't worry, they're just ensuring that the security is in place, and the security checks are just to make sure that everything is going fine. Once you pass the security checks, then after that is just the interview that you have to crack, and we've already given you some important questions that you may be asked about. Are there any success tips that you would like to share, Kavita and Karishma, that will ensure that our we can crack through this interview and we get our visa? Are there any success tips that you would like to share with us?
Kavita? I would like to say, can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you now.
Okay, you can hear me.
Yes, Kavita.
See, basically, if you want any success tips regarding this, you have to be very grounded. You have to be very much aware of the documents you have submitted. Yes, and as Ms. Karishma said, like they check our Facebook account, they check our social media account, the immigrant officer. So in case of biometrics, see, the process is very simpler. In case of biometrics, once your submission is done accurately, and the consulate has given, the embassy has made, like it has already accepted it, and when the immigrant officer, you just have to collect it. So biometrics is a very simpler process. It all depends on the document, like how very, as per the requirement of the country, if the documents are well submitted, there won't be any issues. But in case of any fraud, or in case of any, bank statements where it shows any contradictory things in what you have submitted and the bank statement and the documents, there may be a hold up.
Okay.
In case of live interviews, I would say that you have to be very cautious and alert in what you say and what you have written. Once I have seen applicants, when they do it online, they immediately fill up all the information, right? But when you are in a live interview, you have to be very cautious what you have written, what is existing, what is there, what is your status financially also. All the parameters should go proper. Like
Okay.
if they ask about your family, if they ask about the reason of residing over there,
Yes.
if it's a case of,
we've covered all these questions in before in the
Yes,
question,
yes.
Kavita. So what I'm looking at is, are there any key tips that you want our viewers to take into consideration in terms of when they are at the interview? What are what will help them succeed? What are the things, that smaller things that they have to keep in mind just to ensure the success?
If I may add in,
Yes.
for people in this group, I think the key point that I would add is, for single people, it's very easy. But however, it's momspreneurs, there'll be mothers. Like I told you, you need to show that you have ties back in your country. But for people who are newly married, say
Mm,
maybe you are married in just 1 year's time and you may have a kid, you may not know much about your husband. There are some women who are not aware about their husband's salary, what
mm,
the husband. A simple example, you may laugh at it, but I will still tell you, like, what is the color of your husband's toothbrush? No one even remembers that. What is the color of your husband's toothbrush? So all you need to be, don't you need not say the right color. All they check if the person is genuine or not. So if you say, how is someone supposed to remember my husband's toothbrush? He changes it every week. So an answer like this is genuine, but someone says, oh yes, it is blue, I know it is blue. And that is when it gets suspicious. So there are people who just get married for the sake of migration or for the sake of traveling, which happens a lot in North India. So
mm,
that's where the process gets delayed in the assessment of the application.
mm,
So you must be aware everything about your partner or your sponsor. So your sponsor is your husband. You should be aware where he works, what's his telephone number is. They may ask you right away what's his telephone number is. And since we are all used to storing our numbers on the telephone, on
mm,
our mobiles, we would not know their numbers by heart. It
mm.
is possible. So
Yes.
all you have to be genuine, be you while you're giving the interview, saying that, oh, I don't know it by heart, I can check it on my phone, I can still tell you. That still does not reject your application.
That's very interesting.
But
That's
if
very
you
interesting. This happened to me
but if you
when he
Yeah.
asked me. So I was aware of my husband's Indian salary up until now,
Hmm,
but now that
hmm,
he's migrated to another country and I've lost track of, what is
hmm,
the income that's coming in. So when he asked me, how much is your husband earning? I said, I don't keep track of that. And he was like, okay, she doesn't know his income. Then he asked me, what's his phone number? And there again, I was like, I got a nightmare because now his number was a UK number, which I don't really remember. So I
yeah.
had actually I said, can I have a look at my phone and let you know? And I just looked at my phone and I answered the question, to him.
Hmm,
So I did that. And for a minute that I thought, this is the question that I have faltered on. Maybe this might be the one which is why my visa might get rejected. But
no,
thankfully,
no,
because I answered these questions, he was sure that I was genuine. So
no.
yeah,
As
yeah.
long as you are genuine, they know, the immigration officer knows that, oh, she may have the number stored on her phone. But for example, if you did not have his number on your phone, that's where you get caught.
Yeah,
So
so
they know what.
I did not have the phone in the consulate. So then I had to go back and look at the document where I
That's
had his signature. My God, that was really terrifying. So I had to look at the
yeah.
signature and then tell him that this is my husband. I had to show him my marital certificate proof as well. So literally, you have to keep all these things in mind, friends, when you go in for an interview. But just to summarize some of the tips that I think have helped me succeed are, you have to be dressed professionally and look very presentable. Such as you're going for a business meeting, do not be dressed for a wedding, right? So just look very professional, very neat and tidy and presentable, like you're going for a business meeting. Do not wear dresses which are too casual, or maybe you need to wear ironed out clothes, very neat and tidy. You should go. If you want to look very professional, you could also don a jacket, like how you would go for an interview. So wear that kind of an attire for an interview. Second, and most important, you're going to be a nervous wreck on that day. You're going to need all your energy when you go into the embassy. So you have to ensure that you have a good night's sleep a day before, right? So you sleep well, sleep early, and when you get up, for the interview, you have a fresh mind, you're calm, and you are relaxed. Do a little bit of meditation, say your prayers, and then move on to the embassy. Third and most important, the questions that may come at you may be very direct, like I said, may be very personal as well. Do not lose your cool. Do not lose your patience. Be very polite with the consular officer. Don't say that, who are you to ask me such questions? No, they have every right to ask you any question they want. You need to be very polite in your answers. Keep your tone very mellowed down and very calm and steady, and be very friendly and polite with the consular officers. Whatever questions they are asking, I would like you all to keep it to the point. Okay, don't go back into history. Don't go into the future. Be very direct and answer the questions that are being asked very succinctly and to the point. Right? Let the consular officer take the lead in the conversation. Let him direct the questions. And you just have to be to the point and give the answers to the questions that are being asked. Don't go into the history, why it happened, what has happened in the past, or if your visa has been rejected in the past, they will ask you why it was rejected, and then don't go into the history of that. Just be to the point. What is there in the document? Why it was rejected, and why are you reapplying? Last but not the least, and this is most important, if there are questions that you are not able to answer, do not be evasive. Don't try to evade those questions. Don't try to escape those questions. Like, if, for example, if there are complications in your visa, such as maybe your previous visa was rejected, if there was a refusal, if there are any other complications, maybe like a divorce in the family or a criminal record or something, right? It would be best to find an appropriate answer to that question, because probably the consulate also knows the answer. Am I correct, Karishma? When there are such instances, the consulate already knows the answer. So don't try to evade it, or don't try to hide it, or come up with some questions or answers of your own. The consulate probably already has done a background check or may do a background check, and they may come up with the proper reason. So don't try to hide anything. Just be very clear about the reasons for refusal or purpose. Don't try to evade them. State the obvious, right? So I think if you keep these key tips in mind, are there some similar such tips that you all want to offer, my friends? Do you all have any such tips that any other tips that I may have missed out that you all want to pass on to the viewers? Or
so there are situations where people may have been rejected visas. So if you may think that I may escape this question by saying that, oh, I just got rejected because that didn't think I or I was travel. All these kind of answers will definitely lead to rejection. You need to say the true reason why the application was rejected, because you did not have enough funds, or maybe you were sick at that time, or maybe you got divorced, or you just need to tell the truth. Every immigration officer get your rejection letter. You cannot hide your answers in any way. So if you think you can escape it, you cannot. And if you in any instance end up lying to the immigration officer, you are done with your application.
Okay.
And you're never going back to that country again. So whatever it is, you just have to be true.
One last question, what I want to ask is, if your visa has been rejected before for any particular country, can you reapply? And how many times is a rejection allowed before you can, or how much is the wait period before you can reapply if it's been rejected? Can either of you answer this question for me, please?
See, if your application is rejected for a case of fraud, then I do not see you reapplying again. You will need a lawyer to deal with your case.
Oh, okay.
But in case, you will definitely need a lawyer to prove that why you are not a fraud. So for example, if you have submitted some fraud educational documents, which is in case of work visas. So someone may be applying for a job and has submitted a fake educational document. They would come back and ask you, they would go and do a background check with the university and found out that trust me, you will need a lawyer to do that, but the application will never get overturned. You may
Okay.
keep trying, but once it's been declared as fraud, that's done. Okay. And if you have a fraud, not many people may know, if your application is been rejected on a fraud basis, the immigration officer puts a stamp on the last page of your passport, which is a code which not many may not. So people who have been rejected on a fraud case will have on their passport. So it's like a code, like a 320A or a 320B, which is like a fraud law code, which a
Oh,
stamp may be put on their last page of their passport for the officers to identify and the fellow consulates to know that there was some problem with the application.
okay. So then,
Go back
that
and find out.
such a stamp comes on your passport, then it's like, you cannot travel anywhere, right? So you won't be able to travel to any country.
Yes,
Been rejected in for any of
yes.
the countries, you are probably not good. So the best to do is, do not get into all these things, even if your agent or anybody else is advising you to do, some kind of manipulation to get into any country. We would advise
Hmm.
you strictly against it, because getting a visa now is not as easy as it was a decade ago. The processes
Yeah.
have become a lot more difficult. The checks have become a lot more intensive. So I think it's best to wait and wait your time out. And when you have a valid visa, that's when you should try to enter. I think
I I would I would
yeah,
I would like to add one more thing to the viewers here. Not many know that there are many advertisements going on the website saying that the agent that you need to pay us and we will find you a job abroad. Okay, so people get excited and they say, oh, these agents have access to jobs abroad and they may find you a job and you need to pay them and we will give you a visa. You need to submit your passports to us. That does not happen anytime. You are definitely going to be defrauded. So do not get into such scenarios. If you have to get a job, the company has to interview you. The agent cannot find a job for you. So
true.
just do not get into all of this, because if you get defrauded, you may end up getting a fake electronic visa. You think you have a travel rate. The travel agent might book your ticket based on the fake e-visa that you have got. You end up at the immigration. You may skip Indian immigration. We have so many applicants coming back from their country of travel, and when you get a deportation stamp, and that's when you have to go back and say that, oh, I got defrauded. You unnecessarily get into all of these scenarios with every other consulate whenever you travel. So be very careful. Do not pay to any agent for getting you a job.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah.
These are wonderful inputs, Karishma and Kavita. Kavita, do you want to add anything? I know you joined in a little bit late into the talk
Yes,
show,
yes.
and we covered most of the topics here. But is there anything that you would like to add to this
No,
to the talk show? And then probably we'll wind it up. We'll wrap it up.
no. Karishma has told it very precise and very nice. I have heard that whole talk show, and whatever last point she said is very true. Do not trust any travel agent saying that we'll get you a job for you. I've had a case where the lady has been to states. His husband wants to go, and his visa has been rejected thrice. And the travel agent did not know the procedure correctly, and he made the application thrice within 4 months of time. So now there's a very heavy section on it, and the question is whether he may or he may not get to go there.
Yeah, I certainly believe that, when we take on charge of doing things on our own, there are better chances of success than depending on somebody else to do it. So that's the reason why, I decided to have this talk show, because I think, if these are very simple forms, and if we have the knowledge that we only have to be genuine in revealing the details and, going through the whole thing is very simple. It's just that because we're experiencing it for the first time, we get nervous and we, screw up things in the process. I hope this interview and this talk show with both our experts, both are fantastic experts who have given us 30 minutes, 45 minutes of their time for the show. I'd actually promised 30 minutes of the show, but I think we've extended the time. But we've got incredible and valuable information through this talk show. If you liked our talk show, then please do comment and give us your encouragement to continue doing these talk shows with you guys. Let me know what is the next talk, or what is it that you want to hear from our experts. We have a lot of women entrepreneurs on our group and who will be eager to share information with you. I just have to bring them onto our talk shows, and we'll be available to answer your questions. So I hope you enjoyed the Sunday morning talk show with all of us, with Karishma Amin and Kavita Shah. And I hope that I can manage to make such interesting talk shows for all of you. Now, stay tuned tomorrow. I'm bringing in an exciting announcement for all of us. It's a big, big, big blockbuster announcement coming in for Mompreneurs India. I'm so excited myself because this is like the biggest break that we've got on Mompreneurs India. And this is going to change the course for us, all of us. Just stay tuned. I'm so excited to bring this announcement for you tomorrow. It's a big secret. We've kept it a secret for almost over a month. And the secret's going to be out tomorrow. So just stay tuned and watch our talk shows and watch our FB lives on Mompreneurs India Network. Thank you so much. If you have any comments, leave your questions or queries to Kavita or Karishma or me. All you have to do is write into the comments box, or you could just make another post on Facebook group and tag Karishma or tag Kavita on the comments, and they will be available for your answer. Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone. Have a great day. Have a great Sunday. Bye-bye. Bye.
Bye.